Hey guys, welcome back. Today I am working on Project Life week 41 and I'm using the Citrus Twist Flea Market Findings Kit, and I also have printed out some of the printable journal cards from the November release, and a few of those I've kind of altered a little bit, including the one that I've popped up there for my title card. Originally that was a white card with grey frames on it, and I changed it because I wanted pink. So I've made myself a pink title card for today. And the rest of the cards I'm putting together from that flea market findings kit. I love those kind of library card looking journal cards. So I've added one of those in. I'm thinking it's a little bit neutral, but I end up going to stick with that. These are some of those printable ones, which are nice and bright and colourful, but I think I'll stick with the kind of neutral colour because I've also added I never know what to call it. I guess it's kind of a lilac-y sort of blue paper down the bottom. It's definitely a little bit more on the purple tone rather than just blue, which I adore. I adore it, and it works perfectly with my spooky gin photos there. So there's a whole lot of colour going on in those sort of top and bottom corners, so I want to keep the rest a little bit neutral. Now, one of the things I love in this kit are these chipboard frames. I mean, they're super cute chipboard frames, but they're also not super thick. They're really thin chipboard, which I love, and so they're perfect for Project Life. What I'm going to do is just use one of these chipboard frames because I want to cover up, that's not my car in this photo, I just want to cover up the car in this photo. It was just a picture of a rainy day with my beautiful pink rhododendrons out the front, and I don't feel like I should have to have someone else's parked car there. So I'm going to create a little cluster to cover that up. So started with that frame, and just to sort of start with the layering, I added a piece of vellum in behind the frame, and then I kind of trimmed that down, and I used my powder tool to take the stick off the outside of the frame, any remaining adhesive, just so that I could create this cluster without it accidentally sticking to my photos. Once that was stuck down, there's no way that that's going anywhere, so I wanted to make sure that that wasn't going to happen. Now, I haven't really kind of planned out that cluster a little bit, but I'm thinking I can layer some pieces in behind the vellum and on top of it, really just to remove the car from my sight line. I'm going to start with this little pink piece, and then I'm going to add a couple of pieces on top of the chipboard as well. So my intention for my November crafting is to keep things a little bit on the simpler side, and I've already gone off the rails here with this sort of thing. There probably was a much simpler solution to this. I could have added a tag that just covered it up and put some journaling or a little sentiment on there. Instead, I've gone the whole hog and I'm creating this like embellished frame, and so I do catch myself towards the end. I catch myself and I keep the rest of the layout as simple as I possibly can. Now I'm going through the pack of die cuts in this kit. There is a whole lot. There's a whole lot of stuff in there. I'm pulling out ones I think I might use, and again, this is where I've decided I need to keep things simple, so I'm definitely not going to use all of those. But there was this beautiful floral in here, and it works perfectly with my photo. It covers up the car, so I decided to just go for it. I'll keep the rest of the page simple, but I'm going to create this rather large focal point here with my floral. I'm just adhering everything down. I'm going to add a little die cut piece over top of the sentiment that's actually on the chipboard, just because it suited the actual photo more than the one that was on the chipboard frame. So that's my little cluster. The other thing, I could have done if I wasn't trying to keep things simple is turned that into a little bit of a shaker element. I don't add shakers a whole lot into my Project Life, but I definitely could have them. So my grid photo of me and Lil taking a walk, I kept that simple again. All of that work was done in Photoshop. So all I did was add one little die cut sentiment into the middle of there. It's effectively the same photo 8 times, so I'm not worried about covering any of those details up. And same with my other little photo for my 3x4 card. I just stuck that down onto one of those digital printables and added a little chipboard embellishment and called that one done. Now this is the photos of my spooky gin, which is really, there's nothing spooky about it except that it was supposed to be color changing. I took a photo of before and after, and I mean, you can see a tiny bit of difference, but it wasn't what I was expecting. To be honest, I was expecting more of a color change. So my kind of title slash journaling for this card is not so spooky. It was supposed to be spooky, and it's not so spooky gin. So I'm using some foam alphas from Citrus Twist. I had originally pulled out the black ones to use, but when I popped them down on the card, just have a look, they took up too much kind of visual room on this spread. So I've gone back to white. It's just a little bit less intrusive with the rest of the photos. Because I'm using like alphas, this is the only place on here I'll use alphas apart from my title card. I didn't want to take up like the same amount of visual space, so I'm not adding black onto here. The photos already have a little bit of black in them. I'm just keeping everything on the card really simple and nice and balanced. I've got two 3x4 photos, and I don't really want to do too much to them. I'm not adding any stamping this week. I just kind of want to add a little embellishment to each one of them. One of which is this little die cut heart that says Big Love, and frankly it could go with either of those photos. I've got a coffee and I've got an ice cream. It works for both of them. I want to layer it with this, like with another heart in behind it, just to add a little bit more color. And so this is my attempt. There was a second die cut in there that was a little bit larger, and I'm using that as a template, and I'm just trimming out a shape from one of the kind of digital cards that's more of just a pattern paper. So it's a floral pattern, and I figured I would cut that out and use that as kind of a backing for it. But actually, it was kind of too much. The pattern kind of got hidden. You didn't see it as much, so I decided just to skip it. It didn't really fit. Didn't really fit either of those photos particularly well. So my coffee just gets a little tab kind of die cut at the top that says love, and I'm going back to my original plan, which was to just back the Big Love die cut with the kind of other heart, which is just a plain sort of pattern cream, and stick that onto my photo. Now the last thing I've got to do is add in my journaling. I just took that journaling card and ran it straight through my typewriter. It's a little bit messy, as you can see. I'm going to embellish it super simply just by adding another one of those chipboard stickers onto the top. It adds a little bit more pink in there and just fills in that gap at the top. Now I decided that I would use another chipboard frame for my title card, and I'm going to do that same sort of technique. I want to back it so that there's a different color in behind the chipboard as opposed to just plonking it down onto the pink, because that pink paper already has frames on it. I want this one to stand out a little bit more. So although the floral paper didn't cut it for my heart, I am going to use it on my title card here. I just stuck down the chipboard frame, and I'm just going to bend that back a little bit and trim it out so it's nice and neat, and then I could adhere that onto my title card, and that's going to be kind of the placeholder for my title. Now it looks a little bit sad just sitting on its own, so again I'm going to turn it into a bit of a cluster. Ideally I would have loved to have used one of the printed kind of frame labels as the label for my date stamping on the title card, but it just didn't sit nicely anywhere. Using any of those, it made the frame look a bit weird. So instead I'm just going to stick down a label. I'm going to add a label and a little die cut piece here, just layer them up and make a much simpler version of the cluster that I added on the initial photo. So this die cut had a little sentiment and some holes at the top. I'm just trimming that down so it's a little bit more of kind of a label shape. It also adds a bit of extra color on there as well. So I'm just going to adhere both of those down and layer them underneath that frame, and then I can go ahead and date stamp and add my title. I am messing around. You can see I kind of keep trying to resist the idea of simplicity. I'm gonna get there eventually. One of the things I didn't like though was having both of those sort of cluster elements at the top of the page, so I did swap my little grid photo with my cluster photo, which I've moved down to the bottom. And although ideally I would love to have it on the right hand side, it actually unbalanced the layout to have both of the sort of 3x4 photos, no sorry, 4x6 photos on one side of the layout. So instead I've compromised and I've put it back on the left. Now I have to be very, very thrifty with space here to fit the little foam alphas into the square. It does actually fit the word week, it's just a little bit of a balancing act to get those in the center. And then I'm going to add just the title number, the week number underneath it, but I am trying to keep everything sort of centered, so I am using that ruler guide just to help me do that. Almost forgot, last step was to date stamp. I'm going to be careful not to add it onto the chipboard frame. I just want to date both the stamps in there. And once that's done, that is this layout all finished. I have to keep reminding myself, keep it simple, keep it simple. I'm always tempted to add a little bit more, but when I do keep it simple, I really enjoy it. Maybe it's a practice I need to get back into, I think. Hey, thanks for watching today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, I'm going to leave a couple of videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you again really soon. Bye.